On the last two sentences, therefore, one who values oneself the same way as the world could be assigned to rule the world. So it depends on different translations. So some translate as empire, some translate as to rule the universe, to rule the people. Regardless what word we use, it's about a person have so much authority, and this person oversee the citizen below it. So you can call it an empire or a rule the people. Why would Laozi come to this conclusion? And it was because 2,000 years ago, Laozi was born in a very chaotic time. The emperor, the ruler was not just doing their own things. They explode people. They put heavy taxation on people. And also they do a lot of drafting for the young people so that they can go serve the army. So there was just a lot of war going on. If we look at the Tao Te Ching, there's a lot of poems sort of to criticize the emperor. Laozi doesn't want to do it so direct. Therefore, Laozi just say, for those one who rule the world, you have to value oneself. So on the last two sentences, these two sentences imply the people in the higher rank. And in the future chapter, I think after chapter 32 to chapter 81, a lot of chapter is talking about military, how to govern the people. Literally, when we look at the Tao Te Ching, we can say that, okay, Laozi is talking about the military, political part. That's the literal meaning. But if we, just like what Robert said, if we take a deeper dive, we can say that Laozi is also implying to us, because each one of us, we have our own internal army too. Our army is our eyes, our nose, our tongue, our ears. Don't we have to control our ears too? Sometimes our ears are so sensitive that we jump. Sometimes people say something to us, but that person doesn't really mean to target us. And also we have to govern our limbs too, because our limbs sometimes it's out of alignment from our internal Tao, right? So metaphorically, it can also apply to our individual person too. So let me read Peter's.
Joanna, can I read it?
Go ahead.
I need to gain some wings today. Okay. Being favored. Okay, now I can't say it. Okay. Being favored and being disgraced could be terrifying. The most significant trouble could be the body. What does being favored and being disgraced could be terrifying mean? Being favored is high. Being disgraced is low. Gaining it could be terrifying. Losing it could be terrifying. It is being favored and being disgraced that could be terrifying. What does the most significant trouble could be the body mean? The reason I have the most significant trouble is that I have a body. When I don't have a body, what trouble do I have? Therefore, one who values oneself the same way as the world could be assigned to rule the world. One who loves oneself the same way as the world could be entrusted to rule the world.
Thank you, Robert, for sharing your angelic voice with us.
You're welcome.
So before I go on to chapter 13, I'd like to answer another Peter's question. Are there other portion of the Tao Te Ching that, I think what you mean is Tao Te Ching that deal more with just how to be a good person, not so much about ruling the empire? I will say that even chapter 13 that we are looking at now, it's also about ruling for us, our internal army. There's majority of the chapters, it's about how to be a good person, how to align with Tao. Yeah, and the one that I especially like is chapter 8.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
And also chapter 3
Mhm.
and chapter 2 Chapter 2 is talking about duality, but we can always dive further. Yeah, so there's many chapters. Some of them, when you look at it on the surface, it's talking about politics. Why do we want to study politics? No, but if you dive below it, you will see that Laozi is not talking about politics. A great example on chapter 13, we can translate the last two sentences as it applied to us. We all have to govern ourselves too, right? So on the last two lines, what about I say, therefore, one who values oneself the same way as the family and our neighbor could be assigned to be a great person. So we all have a saying like, we want to treat other people in the same way that we want to be treated. So if we value ourselves the same way, then we can also value the other people in the same way. So this is talking about this is going back to our theme today, loving self. How do we love ourselves? So if we can love ourselves the same way as we love other people, then we are totally aligned with Tao. But just the concept of loving self is not easy. Let me explain. So when we love ourselves, we have to be able, number one, we have to be able to accept ourselves. Do we accept our external feature? Do we accept the way that our eyes shape? Do we accept our ethnicity? Do we accept our height? Do we accept our weight? Am I overweight? Do I accept being short? I'm only 5 feet. Do I accept my age? I'm growing older. I'm 52. Not to mention Robert he's even beyond me. So do I accept myself? If I accept myself, of course I will accept others. But if I don't even accept myself, how can I accept others? Right? We have to, so just this concept, many people cannot do it. So some people cannot accept themselves, therefore they go on to cosmetic surgery. People that they cannot accept themselves, therefore they go on depression and they start to take medicine. People cannot accept themselves, therefore they always have a problem when they talk to friends, and then they say, why are you always picking on me? But if there's no blemish on yourself, why would you think that other people is picking on you? So here comes a very important point on the last two lines. We can say that the last two lines, it's about working on ourselves. That's why every time when we have discussion session, we have a topic. So the topic today is loving self, and this two line sums up our session here today. Therefore, one who value oneself the same way as the world could be assigned to rule the world. Therefore, so if we can value in the same way as we value others, we will be a great companion to our friends, great companion to our family, great companion to our Tao fellow, great companion to our co-worker, and even to our boss, isn't it? So any chapter that we think that, oh, Laozi is talking about political point of view, we can always translate that into a personal perspective. Start from, explain the first two lines. Peter say yes, thank you. The first two lines talks about being favored and being disgraced could be terrifying. Why so? Because if we feel we are favored or being disgraced, that means we are in a lower position. Think about when you go to work and everybody wants to be favored by their boss, by their supervisor. So If we are being favored by our boss and by our supervisor, we feel high about it and we feel we are gaining something. But if we feel disgrace from our boss, we will feel low about it. Robert used the term low, and I use the term losing it. So there's one common thing here, being favored and being disgraced. That means we are in a lower position. Does that mean that we don't love ourselves enough? Now we are talking about self-worth. So self-worth is another topic. So being favored and being disgraced could be terrifying. And this could be in one moment. Say if we work in the company and the boss tell us that, okay, so and so, you are going to our customer to make a deal, and I wish you good luck. Oh my God. So depends on what you do, you will be favored, and at the same time you will be disgraced. So what kind of pressure are we on now? It's a tremendous pressure. If we are favored, probably we will get a raise. But if the deal does not go through, if the customer complain anything about our performance, our negotiation skill, then we will be disgraced, right? So all these things can be terrifying. So how can we get out of the situation of terrifying? Well, let me go back a little bit. Why are we terrified? Because we worry about our job. And if we lose our job, then we don't have money come in, right? Then there's no food on the table. So this is the most thing that we worry about. Worry about our job, worry about the position in the company. Sometimes if we lose the job, it will be a disgrace to my husband, to my spouse, because my spouse will look down on me, right? So it can be terrifying. But if you disregard your ego or your body, that means you live above your body. You don't think that whether you gain it or lose it doesn't matter, then it really doesn't matter. So talking about Confucius. So when Confucius was preaching Tao, he was not worried about being favored or being disgraced. The government want to put him down. The government want to kill him. However, he has this mission on top of him. He want to spread Tao. He want to, when I talk about Confucius, I'm also talking about Jesus too. So Jesus want to spread Tao. I'm sorry, Jesus want to spread gospel. Gospel is the same term as Tao. So Jesus want to do that. So is Confucius, and so is Laozi. So they all want to do that, but they disregard their body. Confucius does not disregard his body, whether he's being killed or not. So he's always on the run. And Jesus, at one point, I mean, at the end, he's all crucified. So being favored or being disgraced, does it matter to Jesus? No. So Lao Tzu wants us to think about, okay, so if we want to get out of the cycle of being favored or being disgraced, sometimes it's better to just come to the middle. And coming to the middle meaning to not worry about the body. So here in the middle part on the second line, the last second line, the reason I have the most significant trouble is that I have a body. And when I don't have the body, it means that when I disregard my body, when I don't care about my body anymore, what trouble do I have? So here I want to share with you a story, a story about Joseph Stalin. So Joseph Stalin is a ruler of the Soviet Union from 1924 until his death in 1953. So we all know Joseph Stalin, right? Let me type his name here. So we know that he's a murderer, he's a killer, he's a serial killer. Probably he killed millions of people. So one day he want to make a portrait of himself. First thing he do is he get an artist to draw his portrait. So the artist draw him based on what he look. But after the drawing, Stalin look, we call him Joseph. Joseph look at his portrait. He doesn't like it. So what did he do? He killed the first artist. And then he hired a second one. The second one doesn't know. So the second one also drawn the same way as what he perceived from his eyes. So of course we know that the second one also got killed. The third one also got killed. The fourth one also got killed. The fifth one also got killed. He killed many of them. So if you are an artist and you are being called to draw the leader, the portrait, and you know that many people before you are killed, what would you feel? Isn't that terrifying? Because you worry that you will be killed. So the last person that he called, and we know that this person survived because there was a Stalin's portrait. And then all of you can Google online what he looked like. So, so before he called, he got a tip that how he need to draw Stalin. So the tip that he received was that you need to imagine you are a little duck, and you are a little duck. You just come out from the pond, and then you look up the window and you see Stalin, and it's that vision of admiring, the inspiration. You want to admire that Zen sages, so you admire Stalin. So with that attitude in mind, you want to draw the best of Stalin. So let me tell you that what does Joseph Stalin look like? He has an uneven skin surface, and his face is kind of dark. His mustache is, sometimes he was not well trained. Today, when we look at Robert, his mustache is nice and neat, but Stalin's mustache, it's uneven. And then his arms, I think one arm is shorter than the other one. So I think maybe the previous artist draw one short and one longer. So being a dog, with that so much admiration, you have to draw the perfect size, right? Right arm have to equal the left arm. So when he was called, he was prepared, but he was still terrified because if he's favored, God knows, and his life will be granted. But if he's disgraced, he will be killed. So you can imagine that he's terrified. So of course he fulfilled his mission and his life is granted and he's favored. So imagine we are in this position. So being favored and being disgraced could be terrifying. But Laozi wants us to not feel that way. Sometimes we just want to follow the Tao. Sometimes we want to not so swing ourselves, care so much about being favored or being disgraced. We want to do the best of ourselves. And his solution is you want to value yourself the same way as you love other people. You want to value yourself. You want to love yourself. If I don't have obesity and I discipline myself very much, I go to the gym probably every day. But so because I understand my true self is different than my false self, my body will eventually perish. But if I walk down the street and then I see a fat person, that person suffer from obesity, am I going to condemn that person? No, because that person I see from my eyes, that person is a true self, but he's just being covered or wrapped up by his false self. Eventually, when we take our last breath, we will be just a glow of light. So this will fulfill Laozi's requirement, how to align ourselves. So going back to the last sentence, one who value oneself the same way as the world would be assigned to rule the world. One who love oneself the same way will be in trust to be a great family member, to be a great friend, to be a great neighbor. Peter write another thing here. Try to ignore and not care about the favor or disgrace in others. Yes. Try to ignore. Yeah, so at the beginning, we want to try because we are trying, right? So it's at first it's intentionally we try, but eventually we want to do it 无为. That means we voluntary. So at first it will be an involuntary things. We force ourselves. I'm going to ignore this, but eventually we do it unintentionally. So it's like a spiritual muscle that we have to think. We have to train ourselves. Being favored and being disgraced, we have to train ourselves. But the most important thing is we want to always follow our internal benchmark, and that benchmark is in all of us. We have the benchmark of our Tao, our true self. So let's see. So like what Robert said earlier, he said to accept. It's also a good way to look at it. So if you accept being favored and being disgraced, that will be the key. So going back to Peter's question, try to ignore. So how can we try to ignore? The way to ignore it is to accept all the outcome that you receive. So if you are being favored, you will accept it. If you are being disgraced, you will also accept it. So you want to have that kind of mentality. It's just like when sometimes some of us, we do prayer and we say, okay, God, I'm in a very difficult situation. Please help me, and I will accept all the wisdom that you give to me. I will accept all the situation that will come before me. I will accept whatever outcome that my boss give it to me. I will accept whatever. If I'm being fired, that's fine, because maybe this door is closed, another door will be open for me. So in life, we all have difficult situation. We all gone through difficult situation. So how many of you or how many of us have we come to a point when we say, okay, right now I'm in the bottom of the bottom. I don't really know what to do. God, please help me, help me, help me. But then the help never comes. So then you have to end it up, make a decision. So I want to give you some idea on this. So we all been through that situation and you all know what I'm talking about. So the truth is that we all have a spiritual guide or guardian angel, but their job is to observe us, but they cannot help us right away. Because if they help us right away, you will not be able to exercise your free will. So they will come to help you if you are in a life-death situation, where is that your life is not supposed to end it. So the spiritual guide, your guardian angel will come to help you. Otherwise, the guardian angel will just say like watch you and then see you mess up your stuff. Maybe you mess up your relationship. Maybe you mess up your work. Maybe we have commit a crime, or maybe commit adultery, or commit whatever things that we are not supposed to do. But each time when we do it, we feel conscious about it, and we say, oh my God, I shouldn't do this. Then we learn from our mistake. But imagine if the spiritual guide or our guardian angel jump in before we make the mistake. How can we learn from the lesson? We cannot. So the guardian angel knows when is the time to jump in. So it doesn't mean that the guardian angel doesn't help us at all. The guardian angel will help us, but in the correct time, but maybe not the time that we wanted. Maybe not early enough. We want the guardian angel to help us right now, but you don't hear anything. But then maybe you go for a good night's sleep, and then in the morning you say, the light bulb comes up, and then you have a ding. It's like when you go to casino, it goes ding, and then you say, oh, I have a great idea. This is what I'm going to do. A lot of time when I wake up, my light bulb come up, and then I will send my text to Nam, and I say, okay, today I have a good idea I'm going to share with you. So when difficult situation come up, it's our opportunity to figure out what to do. And this is our opportunity to exercise our free will. And why is that? Because in our previous life, we made the wrong decision. So this life, we're supposed to learn from it. And our free will allow us to make choice A, choice B, choice C, choice D, all the way to Z. And there's many choices that we can make. So every choice that we choose will lead to many possibilities. So that's why living in the present moment is very important. If we live in the present moment, we can make a good choice out of millions of choices. So all the possibilities are there. What kind of free will we want to choose? So our future destiny, it's there. But how are you going there out of this million possibility? So this is like we all want to reach to a high mountain, say in the Himalayas. We all want to reach to the Himalayas mountain, go to the tops. How many ways can we go there? There's millions of ways, right? So let's see. Mark lives in Massachusetts. How many ways can I go from California to Massachusetts? There's many ways. I can take a flight from California to Massachusetts. I can also take a detour. I can fly to Hawaii, go to Japan, and then fly to Massachusetts. I can take a boat going from Central America, going to South America, and then go around, right? And then I can also take the bus. I can walk, and just by walking, there's millions of ways. So this is how we take the free wills. If we exercise our free will, there's billions of ways, millions of ways. But which way is correct? Our spiritual guardians or our spiritual guide is watching us. Which decision are you going to make to reach from California to Massachusetts, to Boston? There's millions of ways. And whatever way you take, of course, you have to bear the consequence, right? If I take the cruise, I might get seasick. If I walk, eventually my leg will get very, very tired. So whatever way we take, there's also always a karmic consequence. And so every decision we make, we want to make the best decision out of it. And chapter 13 provide a very good recipe. Disregard being favor or disgrace. Love ourselves. Love ourselves the way that we will love other people. And this is the very important things. Because if we love ourselves, we will be able to align ourselves with Tao. And when we align ourselves with Tao, it also helps us to align others' false self with their true self. Let's say right now I'm looking at Aya. She turned on her camera to share with her angelic voice. Maybe there's something that I don't like. So then I look at herself, I say, oh, okay, she's with herself, but then her false self is just out of her line. But later on, the false self and true self will align together. And then that will be the same as me, because even my false self and my true self sometimes are not aligned. So it's my ultimate goal to align together. So when we look at others, I will use the same benchmark. Okay, Ayla is not aligning herself. Maybe she gossip behind me. Maybe she says something that she's not supposed to say, but it's okay. She's not aligning herself, but eventually she will align her false self with her true self.